Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, those things you're curious about, and really boil them down.
Right, into the key insights, the actionable stuff you need to get informed, but efficiently.
Exactly.
Right.
We know you, our listener, we call you the learner. You want that solid knowledge, those different angles, the aha moments.
But without drowning in information, right?
Precisely. So today, we're diving deep into the mental side of trading. We've got excerpts here from Jared Tendler's book, The Mental Game of Trading.
And our mission really is to map out how your own mind impacts your trading results based on what Tendler outlines.
Okay, so what are the key landmarks on this map we're drawing today?
Well, we'll kick off looking at emotions differently, not as the bad guys, but as signals, important data.
Signals. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Then we'll get into identifying and, crucially, correcting those performance flaws that keep tripping traders up.
Those recurring mistakes.
Exactly. We'll also unpack something called the inchworm concept. It's a great way to visualize how learning actually progresses.
Inchworm. Sounds intriguing.
It is. And finally, we'll zero in on the big mental hurdles. Fear, greed, tilt, which is basically trading angry and discipline, or lack thereof.
All right, let's jump right into emotions then. Because for so many traders, feelings like anger or fear, maybe even greed, they feel like the villains, don't they?
Totally. Like they're the direct cause of every bad trade, sabotaging you.
But Tendler flips that script. He's saying, hang on, these emotions, they aren't the root cause of the mistakes. They're actually signals.
It's a huge reframe. Instead of fighting them, trying to squash them down, which is exhausting.
And probably doesn't work long-term anyway.
Right. The idea is to see them as carrying energy, carrying information. Think about anger, for example.
Yeah.
Often seen as purely negative, right? But it can be incredibly motivating. It's like a surge of energy saying, hey, something's wrong here. Something violated my rules or expectations.
Tendler uses that Michael Jordan example, doesn't he? Getting cut from the team. That lit a fire under him.
Exactly. That anger, that frustration, fueled massive drive. He even mentions traders who, kind of weirdly, trade best when they're a bit frustrated.
So it's about channeling it, not eliminating it. Asking, okay, what's this anger really about? What rule is it trying to defend?
Precisely. The goal isn't to be a robot. It's probably impossible anyway.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's about building the awareness to decode the message. What's behind the fear? What need is that greed tapping into?
And those quick fixes traders sometimes use, like cutting position size way down or grabbing tiny profits just to avoid feeling anxious.
Yeah, the training wheels analogy he uses.
Right. It feels safer maybe in the moment, but it could be holding you back.
That's the argument. If your main strategy is just dampening the feeling, you're probably not dealing with the reason you're feeling that way in the first place, those underlying performance flaws.
So you're kind of capping your own potential growth.
Exactly. Though I suppose for someone really struggling, maybe those training wheels offer some initial stability, a starting point.
That's fair. A temporary measure, maybe, while you figure out the deeper stuff. Which brings us nicely to identifying those flaws. Tendler talks about things like having unrealistically high expectations or confirmation bias.
Oh, confirmation bias. That's a classic.
It really is. It's like your brain actively seeks out info that agrees with your trade and just ignores anything that contradicts it. You get married to the position.
And what's interesting is how it links to emotion. Like if your confidence is shaky, you might cling even tighter to confirming evidence, not because it's objectively the best info, but because it makes you feel better. It soothes the doubt.
So you're protecting your belief, not necessarily seeking the truth. It's like there are these unconscious habits, these beliefs running the show behind the scenes.
That's a key point.
Yeah.
And it's not always deep, dark trauma. It can be simpler habits, ingrained patterns formed under trading pressure.
Yeah.
Like if you break a rule and get rewarded with a small win, that reinforces the bad habit unconsciously.
Okay. And to help understand how these flaws show up, he uses the A game, B game, C game idea. Can you break that down?
Sure. Think of it like a performance spectrum. Your C game is when you make those really obvious, costly mistakes. The ones you kick yourself for later.
The head-slapping moments.
Totally. Your B game is interesting. It's when you feel the urge to make that C game mistake. Maybe chase that loser or cut a winner too soon because you're scared.
But you manage not to.
Exactly. You catch yourself. You have the awareness, the willpower in that moment to stick to your plan, even though the impulse is there.
An A game is just flow state, everything clicking.
Pretty much. Flawless execution, aligned with your strategy. But here's the kicker. Tendler says even the pros, the really good traders, still have a C game.
Nobody's perfect.
No. And just getting better technically, improving your strategy, that won't just magically delete the C game emotions. The flaws are still there, potentially ready to pop up.
Like having a faster car but still driving on bald tires?
Good analogy. So how do we actually, fix these things? He lays out a 3-step system.
Okay, steps. I like steps.
Yeah, it's practical.
Yeah.
Step 1, map your pattern. This is about becoming like a detective of your own emotions.
Oh, so.
Identifying the specific signs that trouble is brewing. When are your emotions heating up? What are the early warnings before a mistake happens? He uses an analogy of driving in fog and taking a wrong turn without realizing it. Mapping is about seeing that deviation way earlier.
Tuning into those subtle cues, the tight chest, the racing thoughts, the way your decision-making just feels different before you tilt or make a fear trade.
Exactly. Step 2 is understand the cause. Once you've mapped the what and when, you dig deeper. Why is this pattern happening? What specific flaw, what belief, what assumption is triggering this?
Got it. Map, then understand the root cause. And step 3.
Correct. The problem. This is the action phase. Applying consistent, targeted fixes to address that specific flaw you identified to start reshaping the habitual response.
And mistakes. They're going to happen during this process, right?
Absolutely. Tendler stresses this. They're not failures. They're data points. Each mistake is another chance to refine your map, deepen your understanding.
Like forensic evidence after an emotional event.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just isolated incidents, is it? Emotions can build up.
Carry over from day to day.
Yeah. Unresolved frustration from yesterday can totally poison today's trading.
Yes.
Spills over, affects sleep, mood, everything. He tells that story about Francis Scalper, caught in this loop. Forced trades, beating himself up, simmering anger, which just set him up for more mistakes the next day. It shows how important managing that emotional residue is.
So when mapping these patterns, what specifically should you look for?
Look for the earliest signals, the triggers, market action, time of day, news.
Yeah.
They track the sequence. What thought follows the trigger? What emotion? What behavior? What action?
The whole chain reaction.
Right. And notice how emotions connect. Like intense anger might just be heightened frustration. Anxiety could show up as uncertainty or doubt or worry. Seeing the escalation helps find the start.
This is really helpful. But I bet a lot of listeners have tried fixing their mental game before, maybe without much luck. Tendler compares this to brushing your teeth for a toothache.
Yeah, that's a good one. It highlights the difference between surface fixes and getting to the root cause. Brushing won't fix a cavity, right?
Right.
And just trying to suppress fear might not fix the flaw causing the fear. You need the X-ray, the deeper understanding.
Which leads us to the inchworm concept. You mentioned this earlier.
Yes, the inchworm. It's a fantastic visual for how real, lasting improvement happens. Think about how an inchworm moves.
Okay. It bunches up, then stretches out.
Exactly. It moves its back end forward, then its front end. It advances bit by bit. In trading psychology, this means improvement happens at both ends of your performance.
Meaning?
You get better at your A game, your peak performance, but crucially, you also get better at handling your worst days, your C game. The whole range shifts forward.
So it's not just about having amazing days, it's about making the bad days less bad. Raising the floor.
Precisely. Consistent improvement means your whole performance curve moves. Old C game mistakes, the really damaging ones, start to fade. They become almost impossible because your baseline has shifted. Your worst is still okay.
So perfection isn't the goal. It's that gradual, incremental shift upward. There will always be good days and bad days.
Always. And to track this, he recommends a monthly mental game report card.
A report card. Okay.
Yeah, just a structured way to see your progress, spot trends, see if you're slipping back. And it pushes you to actually embrace your weaknesses as the areas to work on, not just play to your strengths.
Okay, let's get specific now. Let's dive into some of those big mental hurdles Tendler covers. Starting with one almost everyone struggles with, accepting losses.
Right. He applies that same 3-step process. Describe, understand, correct. So describe might be, I can't take big losses.
Simple enough.
Then understand. What's the flawed logic? Often it's something like, my strategy is profitable long term, so I shouldn't have big losses.
But that doesn't follow, does it?
Exactly. That's the flaw. Profitability over many trades doesn't mean no losing trades, even big ones. Losses are part of the statistics. And again, the feeling of not wanting to lose isn't the flaw. It's the signal pointing to that flawed logic.
Got it. What about greed? We all want to make money, but when does ambition become, well, destructive greed.
Tendler describes it as an inability to stop, that relentless need for more, even when it goes against your plan. Signs might be taking huge positions.
Risking too much.
Yeah, or cutting corners on your process, feeling you have to be making money constantly, never feeling satisfied, maybe even avoiding the hard work of sticking to the plan.
And he suggests mapping your greed levels. How does that work?
It's about documenting your decisions and how you see the market at different intensities of greed. Like, low level might be a small urge to oversize or hold a winner too long.
Okay.
High level, you're chucking the plan out the window, chasing price, fiddling with stops constantly, maybe jumping to super short time frames just to scalp.
Recognizing those different states in yourself. Now, fear, another big one, often feels paralyzing.
And it's often linked to greed, right?
Yeah.
Fear of not getting the gains, fear of failing, fear of losing money. Some nervousness is normal in trading. It's uncertain.
Sure.
But excessive fear, usually rooted in those performance flaws again. It's important to distinguish. Is this fear from a psychological flaw? Or is it because my actual trading strategy is weak and that's creating uncertainty?
So healthy anxiety can be a signal too, like maybe something is wrong with this setup.
Exactly. A warning light. He also talks about risk aversion traders trying desperately not to lose, avoid blowing up, avoid gambling. But he warns against tackling risk aversion before fixing the underlying flaws that might be causing it.
Because you might just create new problems. And fear shows up in weird ways, like overthinking, second guessing.
Totally. Overthinking is often the mind desperately seeking certainty where there isn't any, driven by fear. Second guessing is that instant regret or doubt right after you click the button.
So how do you map fear? Similar to greed.
Yeah, track the thoughts, emotions, things you say to yourself, behaviors, actions, changes in decision-making, how you perceive the market. Do this over a few weeks. Note the triggers. What kicks off the fear response?
And FOMO, fear of missing out, that seems everywhere now. What's the specific flaw behind FOMO?
Tendler nails it. It's the underlying, often unconscious belief that this opportunity is the only one, that there will never be another good trade again.
That scarcity mindset creates urgency.
Exactly. Makes you jump into trades you shouldn't. Then there's the basic fear of losing itself. Leads to cutting winners short, adding to losers. He gives a mental hand history example.
Right, showing how needing trades to be green immediately drives bad decisions.
Yeah. He also covers fear of busting your account, often built up from past losses, fear of criticism, which causes hesitation. Even fear arising just from having a weak, unclear trading process. Uncertainty breeds fear.
And fear of failure, often tied to having those high expectations without focusing on the process.
Right. Demanding the outcome. He suggests reframing past failures. What did I misunderstand? What did I learn? How did it make me better?
That sounds constructive. And finally, choking.
Yeah, that sudden, dramatic breakdown in execution under pressure, purely from fear overwhelming you.
Okay, let's pivot to tilt. Trading angry.
Again, Tendler says tilt isn't the problem, it's the signal. It points to an unknown conflict, an unmet expectation. And then there's the tilt of tilt.
Getting mad at yourself for getting bad.
Exactly, a nasty spiral. And anger is dangerous in trading because it can make you feel righteous, blinding you to risk. You know you're right.
Signs can be obvious big losses, revenge trading, but also internal, like fixating on mistakes.
Yeah, mapping tilt is similar. Track thoughts, emotions, sayings, behaviors, actions, decisions, market perception over weeks. And categorize by intensity. How tilted are you? Level 1, 2, 3?
And what triggers tilt? Losses, obviously.
Yes, but the key is changing your reaction to losses, not trying to eliminate them. Also, mistake tilt anger at yourself for errors. Anger about unrealized gains, feeling entitled to money you haven't actually booked.
Revenge trading.
Often anger mixed with a confidence problem. Injustice tilt, feeling the market is unfairly targeting you, often involves faulty thinking about luck.
Like blaming bad luck for mistakes, but crediting skill for good luck.
Bingo. Also, anger from thinking you can predict the future, jealousy of others, needing control you don't have, or even anger when the market doesn't respect your inflated confidence.
That's a lot of ways anger can manifest. Let's talk confidence. It feels so crucial, but also so easily knocked.
And Tendler stresses, it's not a fixed trait. It's a feeling, influenced by flaws, biases, recent results. A drop in confidence can be a signal maybe your market understanding is off or you need more development.
But overconfidence is bad too, right?
Just as bad, potentially. Signs include feeling certain without real analysis, getting euphoric about figuring out the market, refusing to admit mistakes, taking crazy risks on a winning streak. He uses an example of a trader named Brendan setting unrealistic goals fueled by overconfidence.
What does stable confidence look like then?
It lets you perform consistently near your potential, objectively assess strengths and weaknesses, stay rational under pressure, trust your gut appropriately without being reckless, avoid huge blowups, stay adaptable, and focus on finding good trades and executing your plan.
How do you map confidence swings?
By scaling the triggers. What sends your confidence soaring? Maybe too high. What makes it plummet? Track these highs and lows and what caused them.
And Tendler lists a ton of cognitive illusions that mess with confidence.
He really does. Things like the illusion of control, excessive certainty, ignoring randomness, focusing too much on future riches instead of present effort, needing external validation.
Expecting to always be at your best.
Thinking you're smarter than everyone. Hindsight bias, confirmation bias again, needing to always be right. False assumptions about others. Dunning-Kruger.
Wow. Personal issues bleeding in, black and white thinking, perfectionism?
Yeah, perfectionism is a big one. Faulty self-evaluation. He suggests correcting that by actively listing and reviewing your actual achievements. Then there's desperation, false hope, there's wishful thinking, lots of mental traps.
Okay, last big category, discipline. Often seen as the holy grail.
But again, not a fixed trait you either have or don't. It's a skill, it varies. Everyone has some discipline. Think of it like mental muscle, you can build it.
Signs of problems are pretty clear usually. Missing stops, forcing trades.
Looking at other markets randomly, yeah. And willpower, he notes, is finite. It runs out. Discipline tends to break down at your weak points, certain market conditions, trade types, time of day.
So how do you improve it generally?
Take full responsibility. Start small, focus on one rule. Use inspiration as a boost, not the foundation. And map the breakdowns. What were you thinking, feeling, doing when discipline failed?
And specific discipline issues he covers.
Impatience, micro and macro. Lack of passion, mind wandering off. Boredom leading to overtrading. Thinking you know it all. Being too results-focused instead of process-focused. He uses the moon landing analogy. Focus on the steps, not just wishing you were there.
Lack of focus, distractions.
Lack of motivation, procrastination on important stuff like reviews. Again, the advice is often to start small, break tasks down.
This is all great for understanding, but what about in the moment? When things are going wrong live, does he offer a real-time strategy?
Absolutely. This is critical. The goal is to manage the emotion before it causes a big error. His analogy is using a chainsaw versus a small axe to fell a tree. Proactive intervention works better.
Makes sense. What are the steps?
4 steps. 1, recognize the pattern is triggered using your mapping. 2, disrupt the momentum, deep breath. Stand up, write it down, stop trading for a bit.
Physical interruption.
Yeah. 3, inject logic. Use those pre-planned rational statements that challenge the emotion, address the flaw, not just a Band-Aid. 4, strategic reminder. Engage a preset action to protect your decision-making going forward.
And you have to practice this.
Consistently. Repetition is key. He also stresses having a pre-market warm-up, reviewing your maps, and a post-market cool-down, journaling, reviewing mental hand histories.
How do you know you're making progress?
You start recognizing triggers earlier. You feel more able to control the emotion. Your decisions improve under pressure. Resolution isn't a sudden event. It's more like sustained competence, less emotional interference.
What if it feels like it's not working? He covers troubleshooting, too.
Yeah. Could be lack of effort, accidentally suppressing instead of understanding, feeling overwhelmed. He talks burnout, recognizing signs, prioritizing recovery, cool downs, diet, exercise, sleep, fun.
The bloated brain issue. Too much info.
Right. Strategies like focus research periods, breaks, writing to digest, and life bleed, personal stress affecting trading. He suggests a 3-step compartmentalizing process. Write it out. Draw a mental line, focus, pre-session routine.
He shares that story about Will overcoming anger from trauma using these methods.
Yeah, a powerful example of how consistent effort can work even with deep issues. It underscores the need for patience. These aren't overnight fixes, and he encourages revisiting the book as you evolve.
This has been incredibly insightful, really digging into the mental architecture of trading using Tendler's framework. It's so clear that mastering your mind is just as vital as mastering charts or strategies.
Absolutely. If we boil it down, the key takeaways are: see emotions as signals, not enemies. Know that performance flaws can be systematically fixed. Understand learning happens like that inchworm, improving your best and worst. And realize specific hurdles like fear or tilt need specific targeted approaches.
It really is a continuous journey of self-awareness and consistent work. We definitely encourage you, the learner, to apply these ideas, maybe even go back to Tendler's book for more depth.
And to leave you with something to chew on. Now that you're thinking of emotions as signals, what's one specific signal you'll commit to paying closer attention to in your next trading session? And crucially, what specific action will you take when you notice it?
Great question. We'd love to hear how you get on with implementing these ideas, any questions that come up for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today.